Also, Isabella, for your first question, am I excited? I am, right? I think the idea of technology coming into the marketing space is an existential crisis, right? That it's going to resolve. I think in markets like this, especially, we struggle, right? We struggle a lot. You know, I was just reflecting, and Subosun was talking about what keeps Elon Musk awake. I think he's on a higher level reality than I am. The list of things that keeps me awake are limitless, and they constantly change. I mean, diesel prices being one of them. But but when I just think about, my everyday reality, when I think about what keeps me awake, from a work perspective, if I could just get the clicker, I think in 2014, just evolving into, some senior level of brand management. We had gone through our annual planning process, and we had a new CEO at the time in Nigeria, and we worked very hard for about 3 months, going through consumer insights, trade insights, competitor insights. I've got a few of those competitors in here who made life very challenging. Just saying hello, no pressure. And we went through all of this process, and we then presented this plan. And it was a very robust plan. We went through it for hours, ran through the slides, and this guy was silent throughout. And at the end, he quoted this slide. He said, I've listened to everything you said. Hello? It works? Okay. So he said, I've listened to everything you said, but at the end of the day, half of all advertising spend is a waste. I think the real problem is we don't know which half is a waste. And it took me a few seconds to process that. And basically what he was saying is that we shouldn't have a job in marketing, right? If you say that every single thing we do is a waste, why should we be employed? I think since that moment, every single night when I have those flashbacks, I wake up asking, the things that we do, does it really matter? Does it make a change? Right? And it gets even more interesting when you think that what we do is not really that complicated. At the heart of generating demand, we do two things, right? We are obsessed with physical availability, so we want our products to be, available in as many places, in the right frequency and the right magnitude. And we want mental availability, creating, memory structures and mental nodes for humans to make sure that when the purchase decision is being made, they choose our brands, our products over any other. So it doesn't look that complicated, right? So why should he have a challenge on how marketing works? Why should he even say that, marketing doesn't work, right? Why should anybody think that? And I think, a lot of times I tell myself, it's okay for him to challenge us. We know marketing works. Right? I think one of the things that we are never sure of is what part of marketing works. Right? And I think my colleagues from the agencies here don't like me very much because I'm constantly asking those questions. So when you say, am I excited about MarkHack? I'm super excited because I think, the time has come, similar to what Subosun mentioned about health, right? That precision marketing needs to start, right? That we need to start understanding what really shifts the needle, right? And the idea is not so that we spend less. The idea is that we milk the assets, right? Because, at the end of the day, every single time I'm talking to my team, I keep saying to them, we have only one job, to make sure that the return on investment for investors is at optimal capacity and we leave nothing on the table, right? But beyond that, our real fundamental role is to make sure that in the things we do, there is no waste and consumers get the maximum experience at the lowest possible cost, right? Because whether we want to admit it or not, ultimately the person that pays for the efficiency of the waste is the consumer. And our job is to give them the best possible experience at the lowest possible cost and lowest possible stress levels, right? So when I think about the MarkHack, what are the things that excite me? So I just basically thought about a few of the things that I'm frustrated about that I think I would like to see some changes in.
So your pain points?
My pain points. The ones that keep me up at night, in addition to diesel prices and price of fish in the market, which my wife complains about now. Yes, for my pain points on marketing. And I think the first one is I usually don't see marketing as communication. I think it's one part of marketing. I think that I like to look at it a bit more holistically from the mindset of generating demand. And I think that there are two broad segments, and we like to call it sales and marketing, but I think it's really about generating demand. And one of the things that I've always thought of, and if you remember, I was just saying that at the bottom or the fundamental level of all we do, we want to make our product available at scale, and we want to make our share of mind top-notch with consumers. So if that's what we want to do, then you start to ask yourself, what's marketing without product availability, right? And is there marketing in the journey to product availability? Of course there is. I mean, especially in clients like this where we have significant levels of trade marketing infusion for us to get the consumer presence, where we want it. And it was interesting when David was talking, was talking about the possibilities with tech, and marketing. And I was just saying to myself, every time I'm fortunate to be in Europe or, in certain clients, I look at what is available there and what is happening. And I ask myself, how many years would it take for us to get that? But on the flip side, I was just reflecting on what you were saying earlier when you talked about your cousin and you deliberating on mobile phones in Benin Republic. I think the optimism I have is Nigeria consistently leapfrogs technology, right? So I know that we can catch up very quickly. And I think that's why there's no more opportune time than this to be talking about marketing hackathons. So if I look at the route to market reality that we have, Nigeria is such a fragmented marketplace, especially for industries like ours, the FMCG space. And the cost to serve is high, right? If you're a small business starting up, you can use social commerce, you can leverage technology, and it's great, and you can maybe serve 100,000, 200,000, maybe even 1 million consumers, right? But when you think about the fact that you are in a 200 plus million population and you need to drive this at scale, then you would understand that the cost of infrastructure to reach those people, because of how young our route to market evolution has been, is phenomenal. It's a lot of cost, right? And if it was only more efficient, we could reach more people at higher scale at a lower cost, right? So the question is, how do we drive or leverage technology to drive market penetration, right, more efficiently? How do we go from, part two is where we are, right, where you've got everything from distributors to wholesalers to retailer 1, 2, 3, before you get to the mom and pop stores, before you finally pitch products, right? And I think a few years back, we were all excited about the evolution of modern trade, the ShopRites, the SPARs coming in. But brick and mortar is very expensive, Mr. Bala, and we also see that there's been a slowdown in investment in these channels, right? And maybe the contribution today, depending on the industry, will be between 5 and 15%, right? So the bulk of all consumer interactions with products is still primarily in the traditional trade environment. How do we leverage technology to take us to that hybrid where the consumer doesn't have to go through this multi-step process to find the products and the services they want? How do we basically take it, like what David was saying, to, awareness, intent, purchase? Why do they have to go through several layers of pain, right? Why does the industry have to invest so much in brick and mortar, so much in infrastructure, so much in people to, drive an inefficient process to deliver products? So I'm very excited about the fact that over the next 6 weeks, we might start to find solutions there, right? But that's just one. I was sharing a joke with someone recently. I mean, every now and again, depending on how the week is, if you live in Lagos and you have to drive in traffic, there are some days when on your way home, you just want to stop for a drink, right? And I stopped for a beer recently and I sat down there, just wanted to have a cold beer, go home. And 2 ladies came up to me as brand ambassadors to tell me about what kind of beer I should drink. And I had to be polite and smile and say, thank you, thanks for sharing this. But, in retrospect, I was thinking, I came here, I know what I want to drink, right? I actually wanted to have this beer in peace. So did you add value to me or did you get me upset, right?
But doesn't that tie into David's point about educating the market? So perhaps there's a new beer in town that you're not aware of.
I agree, and it does, right? It does. The question is, what's the receptivity at that point? Am I the consumer that should be told that at that point, or is it a different kind of consumer? And that brings me also to another point. You see, the idea is we've got so much data. Nigeria is not data dark, like we like to think. The thing is that we've got data that is not structured, and as such, we've not pulled insights from them. right? If I'm coming into the beer parlor and I've already ordered my beer, maybe you want to tell me about that beer when I've had the first one. I'm a bit less tense. I'm not worried about the traffic and people scratching my car. My receptivity is a bit higher. Yeah? And maybe if we were a country that had evolved from a medium out understanding of touch points to a people out understanding of touch points, it will be easier to use that insight to talk to me at the point where I'm most receptive. Right? Maybe the time to talk to me is before I get to that resto bar or beer parlor, right? Maybe then you tell me what I should try. Then I'm a bit curious. But you don't tell me when I've gone through a lot of tension reality, right? So what do we do with the data we have? How much of consumer understanding are we able to pull out from people's actions, feedback that they give? How do we syndicate all of that to have a data pool that helps us have insights that are actually led by data that we can, act on in a more efficient way to get the right outcome out of consumers? I think that's one of the things I really look forward to, coming from this. And it was interesting to see Victor's slide on the 8 different subject matters. And I know that, consumer experience is one of those, and I'm really looking forward to how we can operate, at a higher efficiency level with that. So, that's one of the things, right? Another one would be, and my team constantly comes to me. Sorry, let me start to. So, one of the most interesting conversations I have, again, with my team is when they bring out their plans and they constantly come to me with the concept of brand ambassadors in modern trade, right? And maybe 3 out of 10 times I'll say, okay, it depends on, let's just, sometimes you want people to learn from experience. Modern trade is not exactly a, random decision-making outlet, right? Most times before people go in there, they're 80% certain of the things they want to purchase, right? A lot of people that go shopping, and I don't say, an expedition or, basically if you go there to really shop, most people who go there to shop don't really enjoy shopping, right? It's a functional reality that you have to go through. I think the last thing people also need when they're going to those places are, that intrusion to say, oh, I want you to come to this aisle. I'm already tired. I'm carrying, baskets. So I asked myself, is that the best way to interrupt consumers, or do we have to have more differentiated, more appealing ways to project ourselves and visibility at points of purchase? So, there are those questions, and I think that data-driven insights would help address some of those pain points to make us more efficient. And again, sincere apologies to my friends from the agency side. I know they have counter arguments to tell me that it works, but I don't have data to show that it works, right? So when you think about that and you just think about the complicated funnel, right? And it was interesting, the question the gentleman asked earlier about what should I do, right? Yes, when you have limited spend, you're forced to think differently, right? And then you have to look at the entire journey, right? The path to purchase, or the customer journey as we call it. Today in Nigeria, I think, at the risk of being called one of the people that are enabling that, right, we tend to have a spray and stay mindset. We know a lot of things somehow contribute to the purchase decision making, right? And then we do all of those and a bit more. I look forward to the time when we have real attribution modeling for our path to purchase, where we are able to understand the inflection point. What exactly is driving that purchase decision? Right, so, David alluded to sampling. It's great. I think it's one of the ways to help people understand what you do. Right? Merchandising, I think it's great. Visibility at points of purchase, fantastic. Communication, okay. TV, radio, outdoor, digital, all fantastic. But which one of them exactly is shifting the needle? We really don't know. Yeah? And my finance colleagues would always call me and say, all this marketing spend, every year you increase the budget. What exactly are you doing? What's working? And we are fantastic people in marketing. We can always justify everything, right? Few PowerPoint slides here and there, English here and there. We give them terminologies that are hard to understand even for ourselves. And we justify it. But, in moments of reflection, right, I really can't say which one. Yeah? I just don't have enough data to support it. And, when that time comes when we have real data that shows us what the inflection points are, the idea would not be to spend less, The idea will be to re-energize the spend into the areas that actually make a difference. Right? What do you think happens then? The organization grows, right? Much faster than it should have. Consumers have a better experience because we stop clouding them. Think about the amount of data they have to process every day, right? Just think about young people in Nigeria, and I always feel pain for young people between the ages of 16 and 35, right? Every organization wants them. Think about the amount of data overload that they get, right? We are talking to them from all angles, badgering them with so many things, right? We will simplify this. We'll make the experience a bit more pleasurable. And then we get more, they get more, we're able to grow, more opportunities come into the industry, job opportunities are created, the GDP increases, and everybody is happy. So I think I'm really looking forward to that as well, that we're able to now translate the data we have into real actionable insights. I think that's one of the things that makes me excited about what the marketing hackathon will do.
I have a question.
Sure.
Whose responsibility is it to mine the data and give you the insights that you require? Is it the agency? Is it research groups, your Gallup? Who takes responsibility in gathering, mining, and presenting to you, a brand owner, to say, okay, you should spend all your money on this particular channel?
I think the simple answer to that would be it's a shared responsibility. I think there are different inflection points in the data mining process and insight generation and then decision making, right? I think when I think about our research agencies, the Nielsen's and Kantars of this world, they do a bit of that work because, at the end of the day, think about it. FMCG organizations like myself, we actually do just two things, right? We make products and we sell products, right? And that's where our competence lies. Everything else in between is either service rendered from outside or, service rendered from inside. So there are lots of people who basically should do that. I think what technology would help us do is start to centralize that understanding, and then maybe with AI, maybe with just better understanding and harder work, we're able to then say this is what we should do. But I think it's a joint responsibility, and I think there are multiple players within that. But I think tech would help us centralize that. Today we have so much fragmented information all over the industry that it's difficult to know who knows what, right? And I remember we used to have a saying in my organization, if only we knew what we knew, we will do so many things so much better, right? So again, the data is there, what do we do with it and how do we mine it? So I think there are lots of people within that space. And I think this would help us centralize that a little bit more. I think one more area that I constantly think about when I think about the amount of money we spend is in communication, right? And we're having an interesting debate last week, and that brought me to this point, and it's about media equivalence, right? And I was talking to my media planner, and he gave me this fantastic plan, really good, lots of numbers on a very big broadsheet, and then he said, summary of this is spend 60% on TV, spend 10% on radio, spend 20% on outdoor, and spend another 10% on digital. And I said, okay, but why, right? How does this help me? So we looked at the TV plan, and he was talking about lots of stations, and maybe because I don't really watch TV, I didn't have a lot of appreciation for somebody. He was talking about this channel I had to go look up called Z World, and I said, why? Oh, because certain people watch it in Lagos, and I said, okay. But if my goal is to sell as much products as I can, to as many people as I can, as frequently as I can, should it be your qualitative insights that are driving it, or the quantitative reach curves, right? Are we really maximizing this? Now, okay, let's go to the reach curve. It says the reach, I agree, fine, but tell me, why outdoor, right? How many people I reach with that outdoor? Oh, we don't know. So why did you recommend it? We have a feeling that there are lots of cars that pass here because of traffic, it works, right? At the end of the day, sometimes I have to go with these suggestions, right? But I go with it with a nagging concern at the back of my mind that I'm not so sure that's optimal, right? So I'd really like to have a bit more reassurance in this type of spend, right? The second question is, when you say to me, digital is really good, social commerce is good, advertise on Facebook, I agree. But there's also something about retention, depending on size of screen, right? So the question for me is, how many times does the consumer need to see an ad on Facebook to get the same retention that they will get if they watch it on TV, right? I don't know the equivalence. If I knew it, I'll be able to decide where I put, what to, right? What's the impact of a gigantic LED versus, a super big wall branding? I don't know, right? So we go at these things with gut feel. It would be way better if we had tech guiding us, right? Because there's a dispassionate view when tech is involved, right? And it takes away the human element. And then I'm not able to say, please advertise on BBC Entertainment because I like to watch Top Gear. It won't be about me anymore, right? Maybe actually Z World will be the answer. I don't know. Maybe radio will be the answer. I don't know. But then at least it's data driven. So I think that excites me. I think, at the end of it all, one of the things that tech has done very well today is data, right? It has been able to help us understand more, yeah? The challenge, though, is in markets like this, we don't have enough syndicated data, right? And I can say for sure when brand managers have their moments with agencies, one of the biggest area of conversation is market share data, right? If your market shares are great, the agency is fantastic, Nielsen is doing a great job. If 2 years later your market share is deep, so something is wrong with Nielsen's coverage, right? And Kantar's panel is not very good. And myself and my friend, we used to have this. When we used to have market share exchanges, 1 year I'm great, the next year is great. We used to, let's come back and check. We don't have enough syndicated data, right? And as such, every time we commission researchers, we spend way more than we should, yeah? If the data was sitting in a central warehouse where we could all access it, we're making better decisions. And then when we add that to our first-party data, like David was attributing to, we start to have some competitive advantage, right? So I think this is also one of the places that I'm hoping that, tech can help us get way better. Because at the end of the day, again, it's really about how do we sweat the assets, right? If you're a factory manager in a factory, you want to get the maximum production out of your team, out of your raw materials, out of your machinery, right? You want your capacity utilizations to be hitting about 85, 90% at minimal cost. It's the same with marketing, right? I think ultimately, sum total of it is spend efficiency. And spend efficiency is not about saving money only. It's about delivering better experiences to our consumers with less hassles, right? And giving them, the most robust experience the brand can give. So that when the memory structures are being built in their minds from the multiple touch points that we get them through, the receptivity is more positive than negative, right? Nobody wants a brand that stresses them out. Everybody wants a brand that gives them pleasurable experiences, social equity, and consumer pleasurable experiences, basically. So I think that is the sum total, right? What I'm really looking forward to is how tech is going to take us there, simplify the process, give us way more intelligence to act, right? Better experiences and more spend efficiency. So I think, look, I can't say thank you enough to Victor and the curators of Marketing Hackathon. I think we're really looking forward to it, and I'm hoping over the next 6 weeks we'll get good things out.
Thank you very much. If we're going to clap, I think we can clap better. We've been refreshed by several brands, so I've already started asking questions. I think it's only right that we throw the floor open for questions. If we do have any questions from our virtual audience, please, I'll only take 3. So I've seen Nengi, I've seen, oh wow, there are quite a number of questions. So the great thing about technology is there's social media. These days, you meet someone, you can probably find them with a few clicks, and if they're receptive enough, about identifying the right time to ask those questions. Because listening to you, I got the sense of that beer brand did you dirty because they did not do their homework to know when to approach you. So maybe anytime you recall that brand, it will be associated with that negative experience of the brand ambassador. So I'll take Nengi's question first. I'll take... are there any other women here? Because the men have been asking all the questions. Okay, I'll take your question in front, and the one whose hand is very high up, and the final question. So can we have the microphone? The usher, please, can you have the microphone to my left?
Is it okay? Thank you very much. Hi, Kayode. So, the summary of my question is: how are we currently collaborating with tech companies at the moment? I know you said you're looking forward to, MarkHack and the fresh ideas, that could come out of this. But how are we currently collaborating? And I would elaborate. First of all, you talked about the attribution model, which I believe a lot of marketers understand that that's a pain. But do you think tech companies offering services would be at the forefront of helping with the attribution process, bearing in mind that a lot of performance marketing is used, right, in this space, and the channels that they use to communicate to their audience, like apps, are very data-driven, right? So I'll give an example. For Fair Money, where I work, we give loans and banking services to micro businesses and individuals, and in most cases, we know how they're using this loan. Sometimes for businesses, they want to scale their business, they want to buy stock, which a product like Nescafe, for example, would be featured, right? So if we believe this, right, how much are FMCG companies really collaborating with these kind of players to further understand the user, and enable, more efficient processes? If we've also complained about, the cost to serve, this, in my opinion, will be one of the very easy wins, low-hanging fruits that we can take advantage of or leverage, especially with the new season of collaboration, right? We're not competitors, so why don't we collaborate to show better?
Okay, I'll take two more questions so that Mr. Oladapo can answer all of them. So, can we have the mic go to the front, to the gentleman to my right and the gentleman in glasses?
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Christopher Ogu. I have a question for the previous speaker before him, and also for everyone here, and also for, of course, Mr. Kayode. My question is targeted towards the uneducated, because they also are part of the market space, and they are very viable markets that one can actually harvest from. But we don't know the statistics. For instance, in Lagos State, if I want to work with the uneducated, what percentage are they? How do I get to know the stat? How do I get to know, okay, in this particular local government, I have this number of educated and uneducated persons? Is there like a national or a Lagos State database where I can go online and check, okay, in this particular area, I have this number of persons, I have this number of persons. If I can get that information, then I can plan my business and my marketing with that information. Is there a market, is there an information base where I can get that information?
Thank you. Can we have the next question? Please, let's keep the questions brief. Behind him, there's the gentleman in glasses, because we still need to have our keynote speaker, who's come all the way from the United Kingdom. We want to keep him waiting. So please, with your question.
Thank you very much, Ma. Thank you very much, sir. And Mr. Kayode, I really love your personality. We met some hours ago. And I would like to ask this question. You said something concerning your company offering to your customers, that's maximum experience, lowest possible cost at the lowest possible stress level. Now, I'm speaking mostly for the SMEs. When everything is very, very expensive, the raw materials, we don't have enough consumers like your brand and things like that, what are the advice you can use to give SMEs to really come up? And also, she asked a little bit of my question about data analysis. Mr. David made a very good point about the data is key, but with my little experience with being a self-entrepreneur, I noticed that consumers don't really trust small scales with their data. So how can we collaborate to get what the consumers really want? And lastly, this question goes to the SA, to the Lagos State of Innovation. Concerning the innovation plans for SMEs, are there any innovation plans? I've not heard of any, or maybe I'm not current enough, but what are the plans the Lagos State have for SMEs concerning innovation?
Thank you. I'm not sure Mr. Alake is still here, but I'm sure you can reach out to the organizers with your question and it can be passed on. I think it was the gentleman wearing glasses. Please keep your question very brief because we'll have about 5 minutes to go through all the answers. Very quickly, please.
Okay, my name is Obafemi Samuel from the Q Company. So the question I want to ask is based on data, and this is something I usually have in my mind. Now, we're living in a world where data is really important, but at the same time, people have started becoming sensitive to the use of data, right? And of course, data has helped a lot of marketing firms to do better advertising in the past. But do you think that we're getting to a point where data or the use of data will start to backfire on marketing? Because a lot of people now don't want to even discuss, because I mean, someone will be discussing about something on WhatsApp and then goes to Instagram and starts seeing ads about that, and that terrifies people. There are people that don't even like to interact with these ads anymore simply because of that. So is there a possibility, this is just a thought I have in my mind, that data will start to backfire on marketing? Yeah.
Okay, very interesting. And final question, the gentleman, please put your hand up. Yes. I'm sorry if we're not able to take your questions, but we're being very time conscious.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, Mr. Kayode. Okay, so I'm just going to go directly to say I really appreciate what you have done here with your presentation. Leveraging data by brands in Nigeria, I find, is something that is progressive. And as much as brands in Nigeria are not doing so much with data, there are brands that are actually doing it. There are brands that are actually getting some kinds of results using data, using technology to improve their processes. So what I find, or what would be my question is, why do we still stay in Nigeria and do business? And when marketing leaders want to make decisions, they leverage on things like experience instead of asking questions like, how can data help me make this decision, or which technology is available for this? Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I see Mr. Oladapo has been taking down all the questions. So please, I'll crave your indulgence if we can keep the answers to about 5 minutes so we can move to our second keynote. I mean, we encourage everyone to still stay back and network and maybe have your questions answered if possible. I'm not sure Mr. Alake is still here, so that question to him won't be answered. Please continue to share all these valuable insights and experiences. You say thank you for a great presentation. Go a step further and share it across your social media platforms using hashtag MarkHack. And it's still MarkHack 1.0. So are you ready with the answers?
Yeah, so let me take a crack at them, right? I'll start with Nengi. I think the question about collaborations, I think it's always happened, right? And I know you and I have worked together in the past, and I think one of my most notable sayings is, I personally do not enjoy the term or the concept of working with agencies. I always prefer to build partners, right? And it's because there's so many overlaps in the things we do that for us to really maximize the benefits of the interaction, we have to think like partners, thinking about the future, and have more like a joint business plan on how we win with consumers, right? So if I think about FMCG, yes, there's a lot of collaborations happening currently with tech companies. And I know for a fact that there are several initiatives currently happening from the route to market perspective, right? A lot of investment is happening. People are beginning to build B2B interactions and enabling more efficient flow of products to last mile, right? And there's a lot of conversations also happening about the B2C leg of it, that, when we do this push, leveraging tech, how do we pull out those products and get proximity purchase happening, within geotagged environments? So there are things like that. I think it will be different from one industry to another, one organization to another. And what I recommend is that if you are able to project what the value is that you offer, the data you have, the services you render, to the organization who needs it the most, understanding the pain point. I'm sure that they're all open to collaborations, right? And that's how the current collaborations have happened. You know, if someone walks up to me and says, I've got a more efficient way of helping you drive product through and pull out of your warehouse into the end purchase of the mom and pop store, I will jump at it, right? Because it helps with efficiency and reduces cost. So I think the collaboration mindset is there. It is happening currently. To what extent with what organization will depend. It's a case by case basis, right? So I think push the envelope, explore those options, knock on doors, talk about what you do, and you find that you're able to open up those collaborative relationships, right? I think that will be my simple summary to that. I don't know if it answers your question, except you're asking if I want to collaborate with you, and that we'll have to discuss separately. Right? But yeah, there's always room for collaborations across industries. I think on your question about database existing, right? I think I'll defer to Bosun, who is not here, or Mr. Fafore, who will know. I personally think that there is some capture, right? How clean and usable that data is, I'm not sure. But I think, maybe post this while we're having coffee, you can talk to Mr. Fafore. I'm sure he'll be able to guide you a bit more on the formal, informal sector data collation that the government has, because they have to have some. They've done quite a lot of work with the informal sector, right? And I know Fafore has done quite a bit of work with them. We can point you in the right direction, right? So hopefully that actually answers your question. So, please feel free to collaborate and have a bit more conversation. Look, I think to your question about SMEs, this is what's funny. Even with large multinational organizations, right, investment funds is finite. It's not like an inexhaustible pool. And what I'll recommend is that I think at the heart of it, really understand what truly matters to your consumers, right? I think that will help you a lot. And I think after that, just follow what Einstein said, right? Keep things as simple as possible, but no simpler than that. Don't try to create a complicated marketing process. Do what really matters, hit at the heart of it, and don't do too many things. Do a few things, do them big, do them bold, and do them better than everyone else, right? And you'll be able to maximize the efficiency of your spend, okay? But I think we all face the same challenge. Nobody has limitless spend. Even the multinationals struggle to find more budget consistently. I think on data collation and how consumers trust, if I take myself as an example, I think I'm constantly paranoid as to what my digital footprint is and what organizations are doing with it, right? But if you're a small organization and you want to, get data, I think what I would recommend, again, is that through every interaction you have with the consumer, build trust, right? Use the data for what it should be used for and use it responsibly. And if with the data you've gotten so far, you create delight for them, they'll be a bit more open to sharing more with you, right? For as long as they know that they're not being taken advantage of and it does not compromise them. Yeah? But it's not an absolute science. It will always depend on the people, their receptivity at the moment, and it's a case-by-case reality.
So
right?
we'll have to move, maybe in a minute, you can just wrap up the last answer.
No, so I think I've got a few more questions. I think, just to touch on one point that you mentioned, that when organizations are making decisions, they go for experience and not data. I think just to clarify that, experience is actually data, right? It's a lot of data, and it's a lot of data that's been translated into actionable insights, right? So maybe that's why they go for it. So experience and data are not mutually exclusive. So maybe that's why. But we can always catch up after the session to answer a few more questions if you want to.
Thank you very much. A round of applause for Mr. Kayode Oladapo, Zone AOA Assistant Regional Manager, Sub-Saharan Africa, Nestle. Yes, thank you very much.